Hi, welcome to TTM Overcomers Rising, How to Live Out Your Days Victoriously. Today with me I have Aneela. Aneela and her husbands are the founder of Habitaware. Habitware is a bracelet which helps people with hair pulling, skin picking, and nail biting. So welcome. So glad that you're with us.
Thank you so much for having me. This is super exciting to just get to know you more and be able to share my story with hopefully people that are trying to overcome these behaviors listening to your podcast.
Yes, awesome. So we're going to just jump into the first question, and then we'll start talking about your bracelet and everything. But you created this with your husband because you have battled a hair pulling disorder. Mm-hmm. And so let's start off with, what are your first memories of this hair pulling disorder called Trichotillomania, and what are your problem areas?
Yeah, so I mostly pull from my eyebrows and my eyelashes. And for me, I don't really know exactly when it started, but it was sometime in my early tweens is what I say, like around 12-ish, 13-ish, probably around the time puberty was hitting. I think that the hormonal change probably played a role. But for me, I grew up a thumb sucker, and then I grew up a hair twirler. So I used to twirl my hair like this all the time. Whenever I was nervous, whenever I was, even just right before going to bed, it was just this soothing mechanism for me. So I think I kind of always had the markers or the predisposition to start pulling. And then in one of my elementary school science classes, I remember watching a video about microorganisms. And in that video, they showed these really zoomed in pictures of these microorganisms living in your eyebrows and your eyelashes. And that grossed me out. And I'm Indian, so I had very bushy eyebrows, so I would start kind of pulling at them to sort of tone them down, and then it just sort of kept spiraling to, as I got older, life got more stressful, and this just became my go-to for dealing with stuff.
Yeah. So how long have you battled trichotillomania in your life?
So that was in my early tweens, and I'm in my late 30s now, so it's been 20 plus years, almost 25, if not more. I won't do the exact math.
Yeah. How has trichotillomania impacted your life? Because you're talking about how it kind of formed into how you dealt with life, how it's helped you cope. So what were kind of the impact of having to grow up with trichotillomania?
Yeah, it's interesting, right? It's the thing that we choose to use to cope, and yet it's the source of some of this angst in our lives, some of the shame, some of the embarrassment, and it holds us back from a lot of things. For myself, I would pull, and then I would tell myself all this bad stuff. You're ugly, you're not smart, you're never gonna find love, you're wrong, you're damaged. Like, who's going to like you? Who's going to want to play with you? Who's going to want to be your friend? Who's going to want to love you? All this stuff kept circulating in my brain just because I pulled out my hair. Yeah. And all of that stuff then became my way of thinking in my mind and sort of guided my decisions, So I thought I wasn't good enough, and I quit the high school band, playing saxophone, even though I really liked it. Mm-hmm. I thought I wasn't good enough, and so I didn't even try out for the basketball team because I was so scared that if I sweat, the eyebrow makeup would wipe off, mm-hmm. or I'd be caught in the locker room, and I just didn't want to give people any reason to think there was something wrong with me. Or I'd around this time also moved from one town to another, and I felt like an outcast. I wasn't like those other kids, and so that also weighed on me. And I didn't want people they already had enough reason to kind of keep me on the fringes, and I didn't want to give them any more reason, so I just hid for pretty much until the last couple of years.
Yeah. So Aneela, what ways are you finding now to overcome when when was it an idea between you and your husband that, hey, why don't we create something that could help not only me, but all these people who are battling the same kind of sort of issues that you are?
Yeah, so for myself, the biggest thing that has helped me overcome this disorder is sharing that I have the disorder.
Yeah.
I think I was so scared that people would think that there was something wrong with me that I didn't share it. And holding on to that baggage was a lot of the source of the damage, if you will. And for me, I was caught. Like my husband, we were getting ready one morning. I went to go grab my black eye pencil and he was standing right there and I bumped into him and he's like, "Where are your eyebrows? Like, what is going on?"
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, I was caught. So it's very easy for me to say, "Oh, you should tell someone." But I know that that's a very hard thing to do. But for me, I didn't have a choice. I was caught. And in that moment, for whether it was I couldn't quickly think of a reason, even though I've been able to do that in the past, or whether I was just in that moment completely done with lying to myself and to people around me. I was just done with hiding. I told him I have this disorder. I told him this is what I do. And for him, he didn't really understand the shame that I was holding on to. So he took to the internet and he started researching the issue. He found bfrb.org, which is the major nonprofit, and he started to understand why, after reading people's stories and articles about it, like why we hide. And then a couple of weeks later, we're sitting on the couch and I'm pulling without really realizing it. We're watching television, which is one of my trigger kind of danger zones.
Mm-hmm.
And he just gently grabbed my hand and I just said, "No." Yes, it's kind of helpful, but I don't want you to tell me. I wish I had something that notified me, but I wish it wasn't you. And so again, we went back on the internet. We couldn't find anything. And we said, well, technology is pretty impressive these days with the phones that we're holding in our hands. We got to be able to make this thing. And we just slowly worked at it.
Yeah. And so what year did you guys create this bracelet?
So we started in like 2014, 2015-ish. And then it took us some time to kind of go through iterations, prototyping, testing. Even before that, it took us time to find our two technical co-founders, John and Kirk, who could actually build this, because we had this idea, but we didn't have the technical capabilities. So, kind of prayed on that the right people would come into our lives for that, and they did. And that's just a testament, I think, to the work that we're doing, is that, knock on wood, the doors keep kind of opening for us. Mm-hmm. And then with John and Kirk, we built prototypes, we tested them, we built new ones, we tested them, and things just kept sort of saying, okay, this is working, let's keep improving, let's keep moving down the path of creating the product. And then we went to the bfrb.org conference, and people's eyes just lit up when they would try the bracelet, and they would go like this, and they get the vibration, and they'd be like, what? Like, that's awesome. Doctors were saying, we've been waiting for something like this. So it was super exciting and motivating, got us to the point of, okay, we're going to quit our day jobs. We're going to do this for real. And, because it just started out as a fun weekend hack project, just for fun, that's what we do here in Minneapolis, where I live, is, and then we actually finally started shipping the product in 2017. So for the last 2 years, we've been helping people take control.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's been
so
really,
you're going like this. How do you, real quick, can you just kind of give an overall how it's trained? And also I saw a video how it's linked up to the person's, you can get an app on your cell phone, and it will track it records for you instead of having to figure out, logging throughout your day. It logs for you, correct?
So you actually, it's kind of correct. So I'll tell you first about how the bracelet works, mm-hmm. and then I can show you a little bit of the tracking, explain that tracking piece. So the bracelet works, you connect to a mobile app and you really are just recording the movement that you do when your hand is at your danger zone. So my eyebrows and my eyelashes is my danger zone. So it records this movement down. It's looking for that repetitive motion. So if you're a skin picker, it's looking for that repetitive motion at that site. If you're a nail biter, it's looking for the actual act of, biting your nails. And then it's taking all that information and it's creating a mathematical equation that's stored on the bracelet. So your phone can be completely off, like all of that gesture detection is on here. And then basically when you just do that behavior that you train, it'll send a vibration. And that vibration is just the little hug that you need to say, hey, that little reminder, say, hey, your hands are not where you want them to be. And now you have that choice. You can still go on to pull or bite your nails or pick at your skin. Or you can say, okay, what's happening right now? Why am I feeling this way? Because really your thoughts control your feelings, which control your actions. So if you're thinking, if you're stressed out, then you're going to feel that anxiety and then you're going to act it out, right? So we want you to kind of work backwards and say, okay, well, what am I feeling? What am I thinking about? What am I feeling? And then let me use that to figure out what's the right replacement strategy. So if you're stressed, then we suggest doing like deep breathing or maybe some yoga or maybe even just like quick stretch right while you're at your desk, or drink a glass of water, something to just sort of reset that nervous energy. For myself, it wasn't until I started tracking using the app that I realized late at night was my biggest time period of when I would be pulling. So now my replacement strategy is I just go to sleep when I start. If I'm working late at night and I start feeling my hands starting to play around with my eyebrows, I'm just like, okay, I'm done. Like that's my cue to go to bed. And so that works for me. And the way that you track the behavior, it's not that it automatically records like every time the bracelet vibrates. What you do is you actually just push the button on the bracelet. And by doing that, you're acknowledging, I pulled, I picked, and that's okay. We're trying to get to a point where it's not so shameful, right? We're trying to say, okay, I did it. I acknowledge that this happened in this moment, and that's okay. I'm learning, I'm practicing, I'm becoming aware of why it's happening. And then when the bracelet comes back together with the mobile app, that's when you can see the data that you've sort of told the bracelet at this time, I engaged in the behavior. Now you can start seeing the charts and the graphs and start trying to figure out some of those danger timings for yourself.
Awesome. So what has been the positive responses that people who have worn your bracelet, what's the feedback that you're getting? Because it's only been on the market for 2 years. So there's, a lot more people to reach, but so far, how has the responses been?
Yeah, we've been having a great response. It's not, there's no magic bullets in life. And I think a lot of people are looking for that magic bullet. And so of course there's people that are like, okay, this wasn't for me. But we are for the people that are ready to change. We are for the people that are ready to put in the work and the effort that involves, like any change, right? If you want to get to the gym more, just buying the sneakers is not going to do it. If you want to eat better, you have to put the effort in to then shop better and make better choices at the grocery store, make better choices when you go out to dinner. So the response has been awesome for people that understand that this bracelet is meant to bring them to awareness and give them that power of choosing something healthier. Yeah. So we've been helping people take control of skin picking, nail biting. We've sold our bracelet into more than 50 countries. We have almost 650 treatment professionals that recommend the product to their patients, which is huge for the fact that we're getting to that first piece of cognitive behavioral therapy, which is awareness. You can't change what you don't know is happening. So we're getting people to that point so that now if they're working with a therapist, they can actually use the strategies that the therapist is trying to tell them. And so that's why therapists have been super excited about the work that we're doing.
Yeah, There's a
And
part of us with hair pulling, because I battled that, go through, it's called like a trance or like a daze.
yeah,
And there's also part of us that willingly do it. So I think like this, you know, would help the trans and days, but then we're accountable for the part where we want to do it, that pull of kind of just caving into the disorder, you know. But I remember my dog would kind of not get me out of that daze. Like she would like come up to me and I was just like, whoa, like I need to stop. But then there's that moment of choice, you know, like what you're talking about. Do I continue to cave into this, or do I hurry and quickly get out of this, like run and go do something that doesn't destroy myself? And so I love that you created something that hasn't been on the market, hasn't been available for people that have this disorder, and it's helping. It is. But I have one question too with hair pulling. I believe with skin picking as well, probably no biting because it's both hands, but you have two hands. So people have to buy two of them. Are they synced together to where it's on the same app, or do you have to do it separately?
Yeah, no, the app is designed to be able to connect to two bracelets, and we even offer a small discount. We offer a discount on if you buy two on our website.
Okay.
That's exactly. I used to wear two. I'm actually only wearing one right now. I'll be honest, this is actually not even charged right now. I don't really need to wear it anymore. I just wear it as like almost a reminder of the work that we do now and helping people, and sometimes even just seeing it in the corner of my eye is good enough for me to be like, oh yeah, nope, I'm not doing that. But you know, to your point about sort of the focused pulling where you know that you're doing it, like I used to be like that too. I was both. I was an automatic or a trance-like puller, but then I also had these focus moments where I would go and grab my tweezers and have to do stuff. But even then, the vibration helped to do exactly what you just said, which was shift the conversation to that choice, to get you to that choice, to realize and recognize that you have that choice, even if it feels like you're in control and you're like, yes, I'm getting my tweezers and I'm going to do this and I'm going to pull just this one, and then you're stuck there for the next one and the next one and the next one and the next one and the next one, right? So you're still not really in control, but that vibration shifts it to a point where you would then have that choice. So that was a huge example. And in terms of positive responses, I'm just remembering our Ellen, who's our director of awareness. She does outreach to treatment professionals and she goes to mental health conferences. She was just at a conference last or 2 weeks ago, and someone who bought our bracelet at that same conference a year prior came to her and just said, hi, you know, you saved my life. She was bald a year ago, and this year she's got like hair, and it's awesome. And it's not because, you know, physical beauty, it has nothing to do with that. It just has to do with, we helped her with this one thing in her life, and now she doesn't have to worry about it anymore as much, right? And so that energy that she spent, like now this woman is free in a sense. And so that's the work that we're doing. That's what makes it exciting for us to get up every day.
That's awesome. What projects is Habitware doing? I heard something about you guys going to conferences, and can you just kind of talk about that?
Yeah, so we go to a lot of mental health conferences. We try to, we always try to exhibit our booth, like have an exhibit booth to help people learn more about our product and the disorders we help with, but we also try to educate people. So we do a lot of panel discussions around mental health and specifically around body-focused repetitive behaviors. We have 2 research grant projects right now that we're working on. One is with the National Institute of Health, and the other is with the National Science Foundation. So that's been huge, not just for us as a company, but I think for us as a BFRB community to be recognized by these government organizations to say, oh, BFRBs are a legitimate disorder that they need research, they need information, they need education, they need tools and treatments. And so it's really exciting to be part of that process. We support the major nonprofit TLC Foundation for BFRBs. That's bfrb.org. We go to their conference every year and love doing that. That one's like, if you ever have a chance to go, it's like I've said, I think in one of my blog posts I wrote about how it's like coming home, because it's really the first time for many people where you're meeting with so many other people who have gone through the same thing. Mm-hmm. So they just get you immediately. So it's just really, really awesome. And then, yeah, I mean, how many things do you want to know in terms of projects? Because we definitely try to do a lot. My personal mission, our corporate mission, is to raise awareness. So I just did a TEDx talk in Fargo, North Dakota, to 2,000 people to just share what BFRBs are. And so I'm excited that in the fall that link will come out and more people will get to know what BFRBs are. So that's kind of the stuff that we're involved with, research to find tools and solutions for these issues, awareness efforts to make sure other people are aware so that we as a community aren't so afraid to come out and to share and to seek help, so that like that other side is ready to welcome us. That's the work that we do.
That's awesome. So we have just a few minutes left.
Yeah.
And in closing, is there anything that you can share for someone who's listening and who feels in their season right now, they feel trapped with trichotillomania and they can't seem to find a way out? Can you just give an encouraging word for those who are listening?
Yeah, I think, you just used the term in their season, right? Think about a tree in winter, right? That season is desolate, it's despair, it's cold. But with time, it changes and that tree regrows its leaves and is bright and green and beautiful and, and has life to it again, really. And so just to remember that you may feel trapped and cold and desolate in this world with Trich, but know that with time, with effort, with patience, with love for yourself, you can kind of move to that next season.
Awesome. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to have this interview and just having the compassion and love to not only find a way to help you, but to help millions of people who are battling these same issues. So thank you for your openness, and thank you guys for joining this interview series, and I hope it blesses you. Bye.
Bye.